took Esther Nariyoshi's Skillshare class, Draw a Jar of Pickles in Mixed Media, and I couldn't wait to dig out some of my textured watercolor papers to begin creating my own jar of pickled vegetables. So I pulled out some different colored textured papers that I've created over the years that spoke to me of possible vegetable inspiration. And this is the first one that I did using to create tomato slices. So I cut out the half circles and then I went in with Posca pen and colored pencil to help further define the skin of the tomato versus the inside, and just really had a lot of fun creating these fun, whimsical vegetable pieces for my vegetable mixed media collage for Esther's class. And then after tomato slices, I wanted to create some pickles. So I used some of my salt textured watercolor paper and cut out some basic pickle shapes. And then now I'm cutting out some circles for some jalapeno slices from another watercolor texture paper that I created in the past. To add some detailing to my pickles, I used my dual brush tip markers. So I've got just kind of a medium green that I'm going in and putting some line work in, and then going over that with a lime green to soften those lines up a little bit to help it look more like a pickle. And then for the jalapenos, I'm going in with colored pencil. I'm brightening up the centers to mimic the look of a sliced jalapeno with some very light yellow. And then adding a little bit of white to further brighten up the centers a bit. And then going around the edges with a dark green to kind of help define the outer skin of the jalapeno from the center where the seeds are. And then I added a little bit of brightness green to the center as well to kind of help define those center sections a bit. Now I want to do some rainbow carrots, and I have this really beautiful multicolored paper that just spoke to me of rainbow carrot possibilities. So I'm just cutting out some very organic carrot shapes, just going for kind of the funky shapes that you would find in your garden in the different colors that rainbow carrots come in. This paper was created using wet on wet technique as well as some salt, I believe. And then I'm using a brown colored pencil to kind of add the line work that you see, the kind of the grooving on carrots when they are fresh out of the garden. Also gives them some roundness because I didn't want to add any shading to this. I wanted to keep it very minimal and just have indications of the dimension of the vegetables. And then this paper was one that I created as part of a Valentine's Day experiment. But today, thinking of it in terms of vegetables, it spoke to me of pepper slices. So I'm cutting it up to get the essence of some pepper slices to throw into my jar of pickled vegetables. And now I'm going back into my slices of pepper to kind of help define them and fill them in a bit. So I'm using a very, very light pink to map in the inside edge of this pepper slice, and just to kind of, it's also covering over the white as well as lightening up where the reds are on those sections of my collage pieces. And then I was going to try a dark red. It was a little too much, so I went for more of an orangey red to add the warmth that is closer to an actual sweet red pepper for the outer skin. And then I really wanted to add some radish slices to give it a little bit more color variety to break it up as well as shape variety. So I went back to the paper where I had created my rainbow carrot pieces and cut out some circles and then used colored pencil to define the pink outer area of the radish, kind of building up on that. These pieces are pretty dark for radishes, but I knew that with some colored pencil work, I could get them to look very lovely as radishes. So then I couldn't find my white, so I went in with kind of a peach, a very light peach, and went over the centers to mute down the colors of the watercolor paper. So I still had the essence of that underneath it, but this muted them down and made them look more like radishes. And now it's time to assemble my jar of pickled vegetables. So I grabbed a sheet of mixed media paper and did a little tentative mapping, and then decided in the end just to go for it. So using a glue stick, I'm just gradually building it up vegetable piece by vegetable piece, really keeping in mind the general jar shape that I'm going for, because I do want my vegetables inside a jar when all is said and done. So I'm just kind of going with my intuition, doing whatever makes sense, adding more glue as needed to kind of get the layering of the watercolor papers to work, and building it up as I go. And then when I'm doing a layered collage like this, I like to occasionally flip the paper over and burnish on the back side just to really make sure that all my collage pieces are adhering well to the grounding paper and to each other, especially when you're working with layers of watercolor paper, which are on the thick side. This is a very helpful step along the way as I'm building up my collages. And you'll notice I have a little buddy sitting with me. My youngest son decided he wanted to create what I was creating. So I cut out some vegetable shapes for him, and then he added his own textures and details to define his own jar of pickled vegetables. And it was really lovely having a buddy in the art studio today. And now it's time to define my jar. I decided to use a gray colored pencil and just loosely start mapping out the outline of my jar edges using the widest points of my vegetables as my outermost marks for the horizontal line, or sorry, the vertical lines, and then rounding it at the top and the bottom to kind of help define the bottom of the jar and the top. And then going in with some really loose shading, just fading out from those darker outer edges just to give the essence that it's a translucent jar holding a bunch of beautiful pickled vegetables. And then I wanted to do a collaged watercolor paper top. So I wanted to kind of find a color in the collage to help unify it, but also make it pop. So I went with this purple paper because I had just a little bit of purple in my radishes. So I'm cutting it roughly to the idea of a perspective image where I would see the top as well as the side of it. And then I'm using colored pencil, both purple and a dark blue, to define the top of the pickle lid or the pickled vegetable lid from the outer edge, and then doing a little bit of line texture on the ridges that you would have on the part of the jar to help open it up. And then gluing that on like so. And here's my finished pickle jar. I did do a little extra colored pencil work to kind of brighten up and smooth out some of the strokes that I had from my original gray, my colored pencil, but I love how this turned out. It was an absolutely such a fun class to take, such a fun project to work on, and I hope you'll check out Esther's class sometime soon. Till next time.